Have fun another bit.
Oh. So you can get rough-in shower valves, but they're not all the same. And we need the valves to do all the showers and finish the plumbing. So instead of buying just a generic rough-in shower valve, we bought all the fixtures and the actual hardware that's going to go with our shower. That way we can use the actual valve that the shower is going to need, which is this guy. There? Yeah. Okay. To do this downstairs bathroom, we have a bunch of these fittings which fit on there. We'll tighten down. And then PEX will just attach directly to that. Got our PEX sleeves. I got a little Teflon tape I'm going to put on that. And I need to find my channel locks, which are right there. There is a certain way you put on Teflon tape so that it doesn't come off, and that would be with the threads. So we'll just do a couple little things. So there's one. We'll now go ahead and thread this guy on. So let's do that 3 more times. They do make universal shower valves that come with PEX fittings already on them, so you don't have to buy an adapter to go from like a male threaded to a male PEX, but those are a little expensive, and this just worked out to be easier, so we ended up threading all these adapters on. That one's in there. There we go. So there's hot. Go. My 90 degrees is a little close to the thing, so it's kind of hard to get on there, but that's alright. Okay. Stick that on. And then before you test the supply lines, you obviously have to go through and plug those stub outs. They make actual shower stub out plugs, which are plastic and cheap, but we couldn't find any, so we ended up just using brass plugs that fit. We repeated the exact same process upstairs, except upstairs we used the universal shower valve bodies that I had talked about earlier. And then the only other difference is we're not having a tub spigot, so we just took a brass cap and we capped that bottom output of that shower valve. That way all the water just goes up to the shower head. So one of the things we need to do to get ready for our rough-in inspection, not only cap all of our supply lines to get ready for the pressure test, but cap the drain lines to get ready for the pressure test. So what I'm going to do is use these little guys. These are just knockout caps, so they fit in nice and snug. And then when you're done with the test, you knock this part out and you can still put a nice fitting over that or cut it off or whatever you want to do. So this is PVC and this is ABS, so you have to use a special ABS to PVC cement. And you can't just use only PVC cement on it or ABS because they do different things. You have to use this fancy green glue, which we don't need a ton of it. And then stick it in there. And that should seal. Like I said, we're only doing 5 psi pressure in here, so it shouldn't be too bad. After installing all the caps, we pressurized the system to 5 psi for 15 minutes, and we found out pretty quickly that the pressure was dropping. We found out that about 3 or 4 of these caps were leaking pretty badly, so we ended up replacing them with just ABS caps right over the top of them, and that sealed it up perfectly. We did have about 1 or 2 other small leaks,
in our main 3-inch stack coming down to the first floor, but I was able to flood those connections with enough ABS glue to seal those leaks off. And then as far as testing the PEX goes, since it's expansion PEX, you have to pressurize it to 120 psi for 30 minutes before you start your test. And then once you start your test, you drop the pressure back to 60 psi, and then it stays there for the remainder of your test. One of the hardest things about testing the drain lines was figuring out how to get the pressure gauge actually onto the drain lines. We ended up using a combination of PVC and ABS fittings to go into this pressure gauge that's actually made for gas lines. And then for our PEX lines was even harder. We had to assemble a bunch of fittings together, as you'll see in a second, and then buy an extra gauge and actually put that all together to attach to our PEX lines.
There's a leak somewhere. Let's fill it up. Okay, you can probably hear the generator in the background, but I just want to show you guys real quick. This has been on for 15 minutes, and it's still at 5, which means that we fixed all our leaks. So go ahead and let this out, and we'll call the inspector to come on Monday.
I had to disassemble and reassemble this combination of fittings like 3 times to get it to stop leaking, but other than that, we only had one other leak in one of the shower stub outs upstairs, and after replacing the PEX on that, we figured out that it was actually a problem with the brass fitting.
The inspector just left, and now we jumped in the car. We got to head down to Phoenix, but he came to do the electrical and the plumbing inspection, and we passed. We have to go back and put in the vent lines for the vent hood and then terminate the vent lines for the bathroom, and he'll just come back and look at those real quick. But we got the okay to put in insulation, so we're heading down to Phoenix. We're gonna pick up all the insulation and bring it back.